Are you ready to talk about some of the seminal cartoon work from our childhood? Are you excited that X-Men is coming back to our screens? And you are in the right place because I am Ashley Victoria Robinson, your video producer and host here in the Popverse, a virtual realm created by Read Pop, where we are doing our best to celebrate the very best in TV, movies, and comics. And I am here today to bring you an interview with JP Karliak, one of our premier voice actors, who you might know from Spider-Man 2 on PS5, and who was starring as Morph in X-Men 97, streaming on Disney Plus on March 20th. Please join me in the traditional Popverse round of applause in welcoming JP Karliak to chat with us today. Hi, JP. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Glad to be here.
So, you are a self-proclaimed snappy dresser, and I see that we have some X-Men colors going on. Can we see the fit today?
Oh, well, it's just this cute little sweater and just some accessories and stuff. I'm wearing my storm themed glasses. Earrings.
Is the shirt, did you pick it because it's intentionally X-Men yellow and blue? Because that's what it's giving me.
Yeah, no, I thought it kind of like lended itself to the color palette.
So let's dive right in. Tell me about your relationship with the X-Men. What is your X-Men origin story?
Sure. The X-Men I came to through the movies. I definitely saw X-Men and X2 in theaters.
Same.
Actually, all of them. Last Stand, First Class. Yep. Yeah. And loved them. I was in high school when the original series was on TV, and I would get home from school and I would turn on the TV and I would see the end credits of the X-Men rolling as I was starting to watch the Power Rangers. So, yeah. But I didn't really get into the series until after. And once the advent of Wikipedia happened, I was doing deep dives on, anytime I would see an Easter egg or some new character enter a movie, I would be like, who is that? I want to know more. So I was finding out all about the lore of X-Men through sort of the back door and figuring out okay, that's who all of these people are and that's what all of this means, So it's an unconventional way of getting there, but I definitely have fandom and respect for the whole thing, just in a different way.
Well, we're not gatekeepers here, so any entry point is a good entry point for us.
Excellent. Good.
All fandom is valid. How did this journey lead you to becoming Morph?
I mean, the audition just came my way. It came into my email. And I was super excited about it because I've always loved the X-Men as a representation of fighting for civil rights and, for a variety of communities. And Morph in particular just really spoke to me, partially because, I knew from the audition that he was non-binary, but also just from his backstory, he's had a bit of a rough time. And I identified pretty strongly with somebody who has such a traumatic backstory, yet plays off so much of it with humor and a witty laugh. And, that's almost a queer archetype in terms of, something we experience. So I really identified with it.
Oh, that warms my heart. It makes me so delighted. I love it when the right person gets the right part. Because we're sort of on the Morph train, what are Morph's pronouns? You used he, so he, him, they, them?
Mostly because, two reasons. One, it was the 90s.
Very true.
Yeah. And we really, even though we as, the outsiders and the creators can identify him as non-binary, at the time, he probably didn't have that vocabulary to describe himself that way. I know for myself, and another reason why I so identify with him is I came into my gender queerness in my 40s. Well, late 30s, early 40s. And
he says at a crisp 39.
Yeah. You're so kind. And so that was a journey for me. And I didn't have that vocabulary even 6, 7, 8 years ago. So And I still use he, him pronouns
Mm-hmm.
because even though I identify as genderqueer, he, him, as I like to say, is kind of like that old sweatshirt that's maybe ill-fitting, but it's comfy and
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So it might not be the perfect fit, but it works for me right now more than anything else. So I'm going to keep it.
So Morph has had this kind of on again, off again relationship with X-Men the animated series specifically. I guess spoilers for a 30-year-old cartoon. Is unalived, is realived, is maybe alived at various points
Mm-hmm.
during the seasons. So for you, did this give you more room to play, or did this give you more pressure to try and coalesce what can be a complicated continuity for an entirely new audience?
I mean, I think although he was in and out, and I just watched very recently, just last week, all of his episodes just back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch it that way, and you don't have all of the other stuff happening
Yeah,
in
yeah.
between, there really is a consistent arc of somebody who's just kind of happy-go-lucky, gets unalived,
Yeah.
sort of, feels betrayed in that he feels that he might have been left behind by his friends, having that exploited by an evil force and turned against them,
Mm-hmm.
and then recognizing that horrible trauma, what it's done to him, what his friends really mean to him, who he really is. There's a whole journey that's right there, and then it ends, and then he comes back right at the end, just for that little bow until we have untied it, 20,
Yes.
30 years later.
I really appreciate the way that you speak about his journey, because it's just not spoilery enough that for new fans listening, there's stuff to go back and explore. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have watched, if you are that obsessive, you're like, oh, yes, I know exactly to what you're referring.
Yeah.
So what were your recording sessions like? Is this you were sitting in your home studio all alone? Did you get a chance to play with any of the other right there, right on that wall?
That big blue thing right there. Yeah. Yeah. The audition, the callback, all of my sessions were all in this little room. So the premiere that we just had was
Yeah.
and also since the announcement and knowing who all of the other people were, has just been so fun in getting to chat with our fellow cast members and texting each other and freaking out and being excited and meeting all of the crew who I knew were on the Zoom but were just off camera and little just names in the corner, and actually
Yes.
getting to meet them in person, and knowing all the talented writers and artists who have contributed to this amazing thing. Yeah, so but the recording experiences were pretty normal,
Hmm.
as are all of them. They all kind of blur together until you actually see the thing that it comes out. It's like, oh, wow, yes, that's what it turned into.
I'm trying to imagine you being like, wait, is this Boss Baby? Is this X-Men?
Luckily, they're different enough that I can at least pull those apart.
The
Yeah,
context being just different enough.
yeah.
Something that I think we alluded to earlier, something that I really love about X-Men, and I know you really love about X-Men, and I think a lot of people really love about X-Men, is they are symbols for oppressed communities, but they also look to the future and they show us a lot about where we are evolving to. One of my favorite recent comic book arcs shows that Jean and Scott and Logan share conjoining bedrooms, which I think is a very forward thinking, very hot thing that the X-Men have done for us. And I think Morph is very much following in that legacy with the coming out as non-binary and being able to bring that identity to the forefront. So how cool was it for you to bring this new piece of his identity into the future?
I mean, incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, at this moment in time,
Yeah.
it's so important for there to be a queer superhero that is just cracking wise on TV that people
Having a
can look
nice
to. And
time?
yeah, yeah, experiencing some good old fashioned queer superhero joy. Yeah, no, I think it's not only been important for me as an advocate for the queer community to want them to have that, for people, for an audience to have that available to them, but also just as a queer person myself, it's a bit of a balm, like to have that positive representation that I get to voice, in my little booth, and take a breath afterwards. Like, okay, maybe things are bad, but there are oases. That's the plural of oasis, right?
Yes.
Of relief,
And some of them are even X-Men, maybe.
right?
So I know you just had the premiere. It was fantastic. I was so envious of everyone who got to go. But we have convention season opening up before us. I know you're an attendee. I know you're a geek. So are you just dying to see the Morph cosplayers?
I mean, we got one last night, which was really cool. It was that was super neat. But yeah, no, I'm excited. And the kind of cool part about cosplaying as a shapeshifter, you technically could be anybody and be like, I'm actually Morph playing this character.
That's my Halloween costume this year. I'm stealing that right now. I will give you no credit for it. That's fantastic. Will you sign somebody's bald morph head if asked?
On one condition.
Okay.
They promise me, like, cross their heart, that they are not going to get it tattooed on their head. That freaks me out. I can't with that. I get the heebie-jeebies. Like,
now that I've spoken that into the universe, that's gonna be what happens to you at San Diego Comic-Con. And then next year someone's gonna be like, look, it's your signature. Just what you always wanted. Can you tease anything specific? Maybe a moment, maybe a line, maybe an episode that you want fans to look out for as X-Men 97 opens up to us out here in the world?
It's the opening credits, man.
Oh, they're so great.
They're killer.
Yeah.
And I will say, on one hand, there's that level up of animation that really gets to show off all of the stuff that's happening in those open credits.
Yes.
But if you're at all nervous that it's not going to hit in the way that the original did, you got nothing to worry about.
No, that's a GIF right there. I want someone to make that as a GIF and then tag me in it. That's so fantastic. For anybody who's watching who maybe wants to voice an X person themselves and is very startled to learn that you recorded it just behind you, what is your best advice to aspiring voice actors?
I think start by figuring out what your vocal sandbox is. And I talk about this a lot with the queer community, but it really applies to just kind of everybody. Thinking about the voices you can do as a sandbox, where the center of the sandbox that you play in most is that crossover of where voices that you love to do and are really exciting for you, but also the voices that anybody on the street would be like, oh yeah, when I hear your voice, this is what I think you would play. Basically, your moneymaker voices, that great overlap, that Venn diagram in the middle. And then there's the outer corners of your sandbox that you don't play in as often, but they're those voices that maybe you're not going to get to do all that often, but they're really fun. And maybe somebody is like, I don't know if you sound like that so much, but you still want to audition for, because every once in a while, that's going to click. And then there's outside your sandbox, which are the roles that maybe no matter how much somebody says, like, oh my God, you sound just like this, you don't want to play that person. It doesn't feel right. Like, it might be a gender identity thing, whatever it is, and being clear about those boundaries and then creating your vocal brand from that. Because if you have a clear idea of what tools you're bringing to the party, then you make it so easy for somebody to represent you, to market you, to cast you. You're being a smart business person.
I honestly think that is some of the most actionable advice anyone's ever given. So I might clip that out and be like, here, if you want to be a voice actor, just do this. I would love to ask though, because you sort of talked about this, what are some of the voices at the edge of that you enjoy doing, but you don't get to do all the time? I just thought that was so fascinating.
Well, there's me pirate voice. There aren't enough pirates. Or like, so one of my least known characters
Uh-huh.
One of the first things I ever did in animation was Marvel mashups, which was an interstitial thing, kind of like
God.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast, where they would
Yes.
cut up old Marvel cartoons and just revoice them. And I got to play Scarlet Witch and the Black Cat. And I just loved playing Black Cat, darling. She's just fantastic. She doesn't sound like anything that anybody's ever done for Black Cat,
She
but
sounds
she's
like she came
mine.
out of Grey Garden.
Oh, yeah, totally. Nobody
Thank you.
casts me as that, but I live for it.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That would like really made my heart sing. That was so lovely. My final question before I release you back into the internet is, what are you geeking out about right now that you are not working on? So no X-Men.
This is a hard question to ask the day after I've watched that
I
premiere.
know.
But, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say so. And partially because he's a personal friend, but I'm a friend of James C., who is the cabbage merchant on on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the fact that they invited the guy who was the voice actor to do the live action role, oh, it's so cool. And the show's great, so
It
that's
is.
been super fun. I've been enjoying that.
Yay, JP Karliak, thank you so much for joining us here in the Popverse today.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Wasn't that so much fun? Ooh. If you want even more X-Men 97 or just X-Men coverage in general, whether that be videos, fun clips, interviews, editorials, thought pieces, and more, be sure that you are visiting thepopverse.com, where we are doing our best to celebrate the very best in TV, movies, and comics. Get yourself a membership while you're over there. See all the cool stuff that we are getting up to each and every single day. And while you're here on YouTube, why not subscribe and click that little bell so you never miss a ding dang thing that we're getting up to here each and every single day. The Popverse is a virtual realm created by ReadPop. I have been your host, Ashley Victoria Robinson. My mutant powers will remain a secret until the next video, and I will see you next time.